have hydrilla present. In the report that I made to the Weed Council, on a private side of treatment, I estimated approximately 400 to 500 acres being treated by applicators. Last year, the Weed Council only had funding accommodate 800 plus acres using systemic chemicals. As applicators, we're predominantly using a contact herbicide, which is comine or comine reward combination. In some areas, I have been experimenting with using sonar or systemic chemical in private communities. One, I had probably 75 to 80% success rate is Eaton Ferry. Another area that I use it in is Heritage Point. The differences between Heritage Point and Eaton Ferry is the Eaton Ferry has cove, whereas Heritage Point is more of an open shoreline that's exposed to boat traffic. There we have a reduction in growth rate, but not a 75% effectiveness. It does slow down the plant's growth. So there are various applications it can be used in, but it can't be used in an open area like the main lake on Lake Gadsden, those areas. So what's its benefit? The benefit of systemic in a cove area is that we can saturate the whole cove with the pellets going to the bottom and affecting the plants. Whereas the contact chemical, as applicators, we have to use various methods to make the chemical heavier and get it to the bottom, okay? So we have to use drag lines to get it into the deeper portions, and in some areas as deep as 10 feet. Whereas if we had pellets in those coves, which is going to cost more, those pellets will go to the bottom, will saturate the whole cove area, and thereby giving you a full cove treatment. And hopefully you won't see the hydrilla for the whole season. Whereas with using contact, we're taking a look at a 4 to 6 week interval between treatments. This last season, because of the climate, let's say very bright sun, little clouds, very little rain, hot weather, very clear water. Perfect conditions for hydrilla to grow. Now, Lake Gadsden is a lake in which the level is regulated. So we're looking at predominantly at going into 10 feet where it becomes invasive. After that, it has been seen in 20 foot of water, but it doesn't come up that rapidly over the course where you're really going to have a problem with it. So our major concern is from the shoreline out to 50 feet generally, which is contracted, and into water depths on an average of 6 feet, okay, which could take it out to 10. But when you have water depths that deep, it takes a little bit of more chemical, and it's going to take some kind of a polymer which is going to sink the chemical down to the bottom. So there's a lot of strategies involved, and some of that strategy has to do with what's going on with Gadsden as far as when they're discharged. Okay? You'll see applicators out early in the morning, and very, very seldom out later than 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay? And a lot of that has to do too with boat traffic. You ever been out there trying to fish and you got these wake boats coming by? There's a lot of wave action. That wave action has a tendency to wash it away from underneath the docks, and therefore it becomes another problem. So, what problems did I have last year? Some of them I already talked about. Most of it had to do with the weather and the climate. We also found that instead of an interval of 4 to 6 weeks, in a lot of areas, we were talking 2 weeks before the plants started to grow again. Now, in this last symposium I went to, I always thought that tuber, like plants in your garden, sprouted one plant. Lo and behold, they pulled up this slide with a tuber, and it had multiple ability to grow plants. Okay, so here we cut down one section, and behind it, up comes another one. So there's something to think about why there's a rapid regrowth for hydrilla. It's not necessarily the fact that the first treatment wasn't effective, it's just that we got rid of one plant and it grew another. Okay? So when I contract, I tell people, let me know what is going on in your area. If you take a look at that map that I showed you, it shows east and west. That is pretty much the territories that I know of that were treated by private contractors. Myself, I treated over 300 acres, and when I reported to the weed council, I said like 400 to 500. I think that private contractors actually covered more like about 600 or 700 acres on this list. You talk multiple treatments, on an average 2 at between $480 and $500 an application. You're talking on a private community, you spent close to $600,000. All right? That's a lot of money. One way, and now let's get into a little cost saving. If you're on the main lake, and there's people here from Little Row Hills, okay? Are you on the main lake?
No.
No, you're in the cove. Well, that section has a cove area, and it also has main lake area frontage. A lot of individuals contract by themselves, but they have neighbors that are next to them within 100 feet. When you contract as an individual, you have to take into consideration the price that you're being given, as we have to come there on an individual basis and then do the treatment and hope that that small area exposed to the climate, like the Gadsden flow from discharging for power production, that chemical is going to have the effect that we want. We'll use a faster acting chemical such as Comine Reward, which is a copper-based solution with diquat bromide, that it in fact acts on the plant in a 5 to 8 hour time frame as compared to Comine, which takes 12 to 24 hours. So that's why we use that, so that that chemical will be able to sit on a plant and burn it, okay, absorb it and destroy the cell structure. Now, if you were to contact your neighbor, which is 100 feet away, and the two of you went in together, there shouldn't really be an increase in price, because now we're contracting a minimum acreage, and there you just split the cost. So if you're charged 400, you get your neighbor, now you're talking 200 apiece. Now, what I like to see is codes get everybody involved so that we can treat the whole code effectively. If I can only spot treat going through and somebody hoping that what's done on one side and what's done on the other is going to mitigate and affect them also without having to, get in on the program, well, the systems we have today are getting pretty effective, and I can pretty much shut off and turn it back on by just skipping as I go. And people find that the chemical does not necessarily mitigate, across, because there's a dilution factor, and with that dilution factor, it's not going to have the effect on the plants that they think it's going to have. So, we've talked different types of treatments that's available, areas that are effective for certain types of chemicals, and why we use those. And then what the cost relative to one individual as to a group of individuals could be. All right. I don't like to sound like I'm rambling, but this subject is one of those things where this animal has, let's call it an animal, has become so invasive that it's affecting recreation, it's affecting the eco-structure of the lakes and the waterlands that we have. And it's to the point now where eagles are dying, okay? There's a toxin associated that, with this plant and algae that ducks are eating, that the eagles are eating the ducks, and then the eagles are falling out of the sky. So all of that time where those eagles have been protected, now we got something coming out of nature that's killing them off. So there's another reason why there's so many entities involved in what we can do about the spread of hydrilla. We have the Army Corps of Engineers, we have North Carolina State University, we have Clemson, we have the University of Georgia, we have corporations like CPRO, Helena, and what's the other one? They're all involved into what they can do to try and control hydrilla. But what it comes down to is the public. Everyone here has a valuable interest in the property that they have on Lake Gas. And we have the Lake Gas Community Control Council, which has grouped together the counties and state funds to try and combat it on a full-scale basis. Without those funds, though, like last year, it got cut down to 800 acres. 800 acres is not very much. You can take 3 coves. You can take portions of Lizard Creek, Poplar Creek, and Hub Quarter, and expend their whole budget for that year using that 800 acres. Next year, they're looking at 1,500. I would say, based on what they had left over and the funds that potentially could come in, that acreage could encompass to maybe up to 2,000. That would be nice. There's a lot of creeks that could be treated, and they need it. For example, Pea Hill Creek. The upper region of Pea Hill Creek, above the Gasburg Bridge, was treated back in 2006. And from 2006 till this last season, it was relatively clear. It's no longer that way. The hydrilla is back, and it's back big time. The same way with just below some areas of Pea Hill Creek. Anybody in Beaver Creek here? That's the cove as you come under the Gasburg Bridge going towards the main lake on the right, the left. That creek had exhibited a lack of hydrilla growth since 2007 when it was treated. This last year, it's back, it topped out. Okay, there's 40-something acres in there. Yeah. You're going, okay, why did it not come back? There's other plants, and some of them I gave in the handout. Let's say one of them is called a naiad. It grows along the bottom of the surface of the water. It shields the sunlight from the bottom of the substrate where the tubers are. By doing that, it retards the hydrolla's growth. That had one factor to do with it. But this last summer, in mid-July, it sprouted. And that was the first time that I had to go in and actually do a treatment for a contract that I had. And I would suspect that